more dumpster diving. Let's see what we can turn this thing into.
Okay everybody, welcome back to the shop. Before I begin, I always like to say, I hope you get something out of the video. I hope you like the video. Give me a like, a subscribe, and a comment. Share the video if you think it's worthy. Let's get started. So to begin with, I measured a chair in that shop to find out how deep the seat needed to be. And in this case, I think I went about 18 inches. And I'm going to cut these pieces off with a chainsaw. I'm going to elevate the pallet just a little bit. And these electric chainsaws are something, boy. If you can find yourself a way to get one of these, I highly recommend it. Now we got it in two pieces. This piece here, I wanted to take that last board off of. We got some help from Atlas there, and every now and then you see his head bob into the screen. This is going to give you a little clue what I'm making here. Just like that is break time. Alright, so back to the build. I'm going to drive these nails out, and I'm going to repurpose this one board on the bottom portion of the seat right here in the back. I'm going to mark this out so we put it in the same spot on both sides so it's not crooked, or cattywampus as I like to say. A few whacks with the hammer and it's back together. Now we're using the old T-bevel here, and we went for 15 degrees on the backrest. And I'm going to employ a tool here that not too many people use anymore. I'm just kidding. A handsaw, of all things. Just like that, we're through the piece of butter and it's off. Now I measured the first one, and I'm going to continue that through the second and third one here. On the outside of this one, just to make the cutting easier. And just like that, we're through the second one. A little palm heel strike there to break that piece off. It's kind of a challenge cutting this piece because the back of the saw kept hitting the leg on the left side. Well, the hammer doesn't work. I guess we're going to have to keep cutting. And we got it off. Now we're going to cut a notch here so that the angles match. This is the back. We're going to create a seat cut so the backrest will have a nice connection to the base. Now I could have used a sawzall here, possibly a jigsaw, but sometimes it's fun just to break out the hand tools and see what you can accomplish. Now we're going to use the first little chunk as a pattern for the other two pieces. That's what I did there. Again, a sawzall might have made this a whole lot easier, but we just get up on the horse here and we'll get it done with a handsaw. One more to go. And on this one here, as we get it cut off, I employ a little bit of martial arts. You'll be able to see that as I make the second cut. Right about here, a finger karate chop. And it's loose. Now the saw flexed on me when I was cutting those, so we got the chisel out here. We're going to flatten these back out so it's a nice square cut. And when I dry fitted this, I found that bottom board, I really cut the notch in too deep. So we're going to trim just a sliver off the bottom of this thing so that board will not interfere with the backer. Not with the seat, I mean. Going to drill some pilot holes, 3 in each leg here. Put the countersink in the drill. I always seem to drop that crazy thing. Hit the back of them with the countersink. And a little break time for Atlas. Now the whole purpose here is to have fun in the shop. And it doesn't get much more fun than when that black dog starts to act up in here. I tried to trick him off the table. It didn't work. He's not having it. Well, back to the build. Remember, 3 holes, 3 screws, each leg. We put them in to begin with. It's just much easier than trying to hold a screw, hold the back plate, and a bench. We're going to secure the seat to the bench so that it doesn't move around. And we're going to run these guys in. Just like this. Now my wife said the backrest was too tall. I know how to fix that with a chainsaw.
Alright, we'll keep going. Help me down.
So we're going to get started on the legs and the armrests here. And I'm going to repurpose these 2x4s. We're making things with a pallet. We should be making legs with the repurposed boards as well. The 2x6 I used for the armrest was repurposed. It was off of another pallet. It looks brand new, but it was repurposed. And pop these nails out, throw them in the garbage. Now when I say repurposed, they were used on a different project, because we can see the label getting flung off right there. I used a garden chair that's in the shop for the length, just as a reference. And this is an old circle off of one of the CNC projects I've made. I keep things like this just for this purpose, to make circles and corners and round things off. They do work good for it. They're stacked in the corner. Here I'm doing the inside radius of the arm. We got to employ a little bit of measurement there so that we have them exactly the same front and back. Then we're going to take a carpenter square and lay it across the top of the curve. Again, we need to put a little mark so that we know we're exactly the same. And then we'll just simply draw a line across and put the old RIKON bandsaw to work. Now everybody knows you get as close to the line as you can and you sand to the line. So don't watch too closely, because I'm pretty sure somebody with a blindfold on could have done a better job than this, because I am right on that line. But this is a rough project. This isn't fine furniture we're making here, so we'll sand it off and it'll be good enough. Do some relief cuts there. We don't want to be breaking that blade off when we try to make that corner. Pretty simple, easy around, and we'll have ourselves an arm. Alright, we use the first one as a pattern for the second one. Easy peasy. You got to get set up for the use of the saw there. I didn't know Lisa was recording me doing my little dance there. Thank you, Lisa. Alright, now we're going to take the square, and I'm going to employ a couple of them here. Use the line across the top of the armrest to give me the angle across the bottom of the foot, because they both should be flat to the surface of the floor at 90-degree angles. Now what I did here was I lined all sets up and made sure everything was identical, and I nipped off the little corner that sticks out towards the inside flat. You can see that it's cut on the piece to the left of the square. And what I'm going to do is use that one as a pattern for the rest of them, so they'll all be identical. Again, identical seems to be the theme here. I'm going to cut that off. Now we're going to put a little glue on these and put them inside. Now I didn't use a pocket hole or a pocket jig on this. There's a trick to this, and I'll show you that here in a second. After we do the first one, obviously. So what I'm up to right there is putting a single screw in so I can pivot the arm to make sure that the feet and the arm are flat. I've got the bench up against the workbench so that I can measure the distance from each foot until I get it exactly the same using the square at 90 degrees. Kind of tough to explain, but we keep adjusting until I have the same distance. That way I know everything is 90 degrees. We'll put a few screws in here to hold it in place. Now there's the trick I was talking about. I draw a line for reference, start my drill, and then turn the drill on the angle that represents that line and drive in the countersink. That's a poor man's pocket hole jig right there, and it works pretty well, as you can see. Alright, so now we've got the second leg up here, and we're going to mark out where this leg is so I can take it back off and put the glue on without making a mess. It gives me some guidelines. We play Picasso with the glue brush, put it back on so the screws line up with the original holes. And we'll go back around and we'll add several more to make sure that this thing does not move. I don't know how many I put in each leg. I just put a bunch of them in there. That's the scientific number, a bunch. Again, we like to start the screws and then run them in with the drill. It seems to be easier that way. We'll try a different technique over here. Set a screw and run them in, one at a time. As long as nothing's moving, that works good. But when you're trying to assemble multiple pieces, put your screws in first, hold the piece where you want it, and run the screws home. Alright, here it is. A bench fit for, well, Atlas maybe. Let's find out. Let's call my buddy over here. There he is. Look at the hairstyle I'm sporting today. Looks like I got one tooth coming out of the top of my hat. I thank Lisa for not showing that to me in the beginning, but oh well, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? Alright, back to work. I'm going to run a router over every edge that anybody may put their hand on. I've got a supervisor there watching me. It's looking pretty good. We got a lot of sanding to do here. Alright, now I couldn't let that go. I couldn't say I was finished there. I had to add something to it. And what I'm going to do is pull the nails out of all of these boards. And I'm going to create a, I guess an umbrella type thing. A shade cover. A bench pergola. Call it whatever you will. But you'll see what I'm up to here in a little bit. Look how fast I can pull them nails. If only that was real time. Alright, anytime you want to cut a bunch of things, cut them all at once together if your saw can handle it. Just makes life a lot easier to make everything identical. Back to the identical theme again. I guess we would call that batching, if I was batching up a bunch of boards together. Alright, now we're going to cut these down to 1.25 inches wide. And I got lucky with this. I just cut them all up, not knowing how many I would need. We grabbed the whole stack. I won't bore you with cutting all of these, I don't think. Maybe I did. Yep, I'm going to bore you. I'm going to cut them all for you. That's just in case you've never seen anybody run a board through a table saw. You get a good example there. Now here I'm marking out for where the holes are going to go to hold the upright legs onto that bench. And Atlas just loves to stick his nose in where we're trying to work. Putting a piece of tape on so I don't drill through too far through the board. Again, setting the screws, having them just stick out. And if we call this an arch that's going up over the back of the chair, I guess that's what we will say it is an arch. Again, there's no plans for any of this stuff. A lot of this is done right out of my head. I just think what might look nice or what might work, and we go with it. That's all part of the fun of building stuff with pallets. You're not locked into any plans. It's kind of freewheeling. Now that's the top side of the arch. And that will be the bottom side, where I thought if we don't round that off, it'll sure make a head knocker, and we don't want one of those. When Uncle Dana comes down here, he's 6'3", 6'4". I don't need him bashing his head into that overhang. We hit this with a belt sander just to take off the high spots. Pre-drill the mounting screws. Again, we start them because we don't want to be playing around trying to hold on the board, hold on the screws, and run the drill. I'm using that block so that everything is identical. Back to the identical theme again. The same height, both sides. And there, that gives you an idea what we're up against. Trying to get that camera so you can see can be a challenge sometimes. This is day 2, by the way. This was a 2-day build. And here I'm using a piece of 2x4. That'll give me where I want to start the wooden slats from. I want them to stay 1.5 inches off of that side, which will be equal to the other side. I put those blocks in for the first board so I don't have to hold it up. And here I'm trying to gather in my head what I'm going to use for spacing. Shoot some brad nails in it just to hold it in place. And I can remove the first blocks. Now I ended up deciding on taking those 2 blocks, cutting them down and using them as the actual spacers. And in the end that worked out in my favor because the slats came out right dead on, exactly the right number, right to the end of the arch. And I just continue this way, moving the little blockies up, gluing, nailing, move the blocks up, gluing, nailing, etc., etc. And then we continue to slide that 2x4 up to tell us, left or right, that we're staying in line with that, using it as a gauge basically. Going around the top corner was a little tricky, but we still were able to use it. And we are almost there. And again, I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me put this thing together. Give me a like, a share, a comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We do this all for fun in the shop. This was just a project that Lisa and I are going to take out and put on our deck. And here's my master sander right there, Lisa doing her job. It's the most tedious part of the project, but she enjoys it. And as always, folks, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.